and add Ki solution. The solution color change will be brown color. Then we will titrate. That means, you see, I am reading this theoretical part. When Ki solution is added to the copper sulfate, the iodine will be liberated with the formation of Cu2I2, that is Q plus iodide, for which the solution color will be brown in color. Then this free iodine, see the reaction in the below. Then this free iodine, first this Ki will react with copper sulfate and will form iodine, that is the free iodine, Cu2I2 and K2SO4. This, just a minute, students are still entering the class. Okay. Now you see, iodine, this free iodine will react with the Ki we added at the starting of the experiment, which will form Ki3, and it is soluble in the solution mixture, that is the copper sulfate. Then this free iodine, when we add hyposolution formalize sodium thiosulfate Na2H2O3. When this free iodine react with this thiosulfate, it is formed sodium tetrathionate, that is Na2S4O6 and NaI. During this reaction, when the reaction completed between this copper sulfate and thiosulfate solution, at the end point the solution color changes yellow to white. That will be your end point, and we have to take the reading. You see, N1V1 equal to N2V2, where N1 is the concentration of the known solution which you will provide. V1, we will take a fixed volume by the measuring cylinder, that is 10 ml or 20 ml, whatever. N2 is our target to be determined, and V2 is the volume we get at the end point, that is the burette reading. Now, in process, you see, when you add Ki solution, the solution color first will be brown. Then we will not add star solution initially, because when iodine react with this, you see in the reaction, when iodine react with thiosulfate, if I add star solution initially, this iodine will form starch iodine complex, which will be more strong than this one. That means this iodine will not be liberated from that starch iodine complex, which will be tough for us to react the iodine molecule with this thiosulfate. That's why after some time we will add starch solution when the solution becomes brown to light yellow. Then we will add starch solution. During the due to this starch iodine complex, the solution color becomes blue in color, because when iodine react with starch, it forms starch iodine complex whose color is blue, and with time this blue color will change to white. You see here, burette is filled with hypo solution. Then we will take copper sulfate. And one more thing, in this process, first you have to do a titration. Actually, basically this titration is between copper sulfate and hypo solution, that is your unknown copper sulfate and hypo solution. But before that, you should know the perfect that is exact concentration of hypo solution. To determine that hypo solution concentration, first we will do a titration of known copper sulfate versus hypo solution. That means this experiment will be repeat 2 times. First, we will take the known copper sulfate solution in this conical flask, so that we can determine the exact or perfect concentration of hypo solution, because with a small change in the reading, there will be a great effect in the concentration or our final result. That's why before starting the experiment with the unknown copper sulfate, you should know the exact or perfect or the accurate concentration of this hypo solution took in the burette. So that's why we first titrate this hypo solution with known copper sulfate, so that the first time you see here N1V1 equal to N2V2. That means for first time we titrate the copper sulfate with hypo solution, where hypo is the unknown and copper sulfate is the known. So you see, And then from N1 V1 equal to N2 V2, we will get the N2, that is the concentration of hyposolution. And in the next iteration, next step, you will do N3 V3 equal to N2 V4. That means now your hyposolution is known from the first one, and you titrate it with the unknown copper sulfate. You got my point? First step, you titrate known copper sulfate with hyposolution to get the exact concentration of hypo. Now you get the hypo concentration is your known, and the second step, hypo versus unknown copper sulfate. Now you have to determine the concentration of copper sulfate. So that means the two copper sulfate solution will be different. First one will be known and second one will be unknown. Now you see in the observation table, first we will take the known copper sulfate of 20 ml, that is your V1, and I provide you the data N1, for example 1/10, and N2 our target is to determine for the hyposolution concentration, and V2 you will get at the end point. And after calculation, the data will be like this. Your N1 V1 equal to N2 V2, where N2 is the hyposolution concentration, N1 is the copper sulfate known, V2 is the hyposolution, and V1 is the known copper sulfate. So N1 is 1/10. I provided you the data. V2 is the V1 is fixed volume, that is 20, which we take in the conical flux. V2, that means after titration at the end point, the burette reading is 30. And you see after this calculation, the N2 value we get 0.067 N, that is mole per liter. This is your hyposolution concentration, that is the standardization of the hyposolution. First, we standardize the hyposolution, which the data we get 0.067 N. Now, in the second step, we do the N3V3 versus N4V4. N3 means your unknown copper sulfate, which we our interest to determine. V3 is the burette reading in this case. N2 is.
Will you please view the slide number 7?
Yes. Yes, please ask.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Should I repeat this?
No, ma'am. I was taking screenshots.
Okay. Okay. Now yours N3 is the copper sulfate solution unknown, and V3 is again 20. Again 20 we are taking as previous. Now N2 is N4. Actually, this N2 is N4, but since we determined the N4 means the hyposolution. In the previous slide, we determined N2 for hyposolution. So instead of writing N4, I am writing N2. N4 equal to N2. This is your hyposolution. Now N2 and V4 here is your burette reading. Now during this calculation, our target is to determine the N3. N3 is N2 V4, where N2 is just we determine for hyposolution 0.067, and V4 is the burette reading we get at the end point. For example, 40, and 20 is the volume of unknown copper sulfate we measure by the measuring cylinder. And then finally you get the value of N3, that is the concentration of copper sulfate is 0.134 N. That means 0.134 mole per liter. Normality means mole per liter. And strength of copper sulfate is determined in terms of gram per liter. So we have to multiply the equivalent weight of copper sulfate, which is 249.68. So multiplying this N3 with this value, we'll get the value of strength of copper sulfate, that is the unknown copper sulfate, which we get as 33.457 gram per liter. So this is your final result, that is a concentration or strength of unknown copper sulfate against the hyposolution. In this way, you can finally write your result. The strength of given unknown copper sulfate solution is this. No need to take a screenshot. I will share you this PPT. In your assignment, we change the data value. Like here we take 20 and we, for example, 40. Maybe the reading will be changed. We provide you this instead of 20, I provide you 10 or 40, reading 60. So just reading data will be different. Otherwise, all calculation and all other thing will be same. So you have to write in your notebook or in your assignment in the same way, only the calculation and this observation table data will be different. So in short, I am repeating once more time. In short, our target is to determine the strength of unknown copper sulfate solution. So with the help of hyposolution, that is hyposolution will be in the burette and your copper sulfate will be in the beaker. So this experiment is simply hyposolution versus copper sulfate, unknown copper sulfate. But before that, we should standardize the burette, that is the hyposolution, for which first we take an experiment or a titration between known copper sulfate, which is different from this unknown copper sulfate. They are not same solution. The concentration will be different. So first of all, we take a known copper sulfate solution against the hyposolution so that we can determine the perfect or exact or the accurate concentration of this hyposolution, because we can prepare by weighing the hyposolution, but since during our measurement there will be certain change of the volume or in the weighing process, so that's why you should exactly know the concentration of hyposolution by titrating with the known copper sulfate. The first time we titrate known copper sulfate with hyposolution, then by calculation we get the hyposolution concentration. Second time we use this hyposolution as the known and taking unknown copper sulfate from another solution. So by this simply N1 V1 equal to N2 V2 formula, we get the concentration of unknown. And you see in the theory part, this copper sulfate react with Ki and it form iodine. So this type of reaction where iodine is liberating is called iodometric. You see in the first line, determined by iodometric method, and there is another method which is called iodemetric method. It is very important question for your final viva. What is iodometric process or what is iodemetric process? Iodometric process is the process where iodine, that is the free iodine, is liberating, is released or it produced during this reaction process. You see in this case, copper sulfate react with Ki and it form iodine. That's why this process is called iodometric. And in the contrary, if iodine is consumed during any reaction, for example the third one, where free iodine react with the thiosulfate and it form sodium tetrathionate, where the free iodine is consumed. So this type of reaction is called iodemetric method. In this type of titration you will get in your third sem, where free iodine is consumed. So that process will be called iodemetric process, but in this case it is iodometric. And one more question, what is in this case, what is the oxidation state of copper changing? You see in copper sulfate, the oxidation state of copper, that is +2, and in Cu2I2 it changes to +1. So reduction of copper sulfate is taking place. That means it acts as a oxidizing agent. Copper sulfate here act as oxidizing agent because it reduction of copper sulfate taking place from +2 to +1. And in the reverse, the Ki is reducing agent and oxidation. That means the iodine oxidation state is -1 and it changes to iodine, that means 0. So -1 to 0 is oxidation. And similarly in the third case, iodine is this is reduction, that is oxidizing agent. So in this type of reaction is called redox titration. That means reduction or oxidation taking place between these two reagent. That's why this type of titration is called redox titration. So I can ask, what is it? Is it redox titration, or there is another type of titration which is called acid base titration, where we take NaCl or NaOH or HCl or any other acid base titration. There will be complexometry titration, why we titrate with EDTA solution which form complex. So that type of titration is called complexometry titration or colorimetry titration. So in this case it is redox titration. And starch is act as an indicator. You know, to find out our endpoint, we should add any outsider indicator so that we can, the indicator changes its color at the endpoint and we can get the reading from burette at the endpoint. So here indicator used as starch, because when we add starch form a complex with free iodine which is blue in color, and with the And you see, I can ask you why at the end point why color changes from blue to red, blue to white. The answer will like this: when first in the first reaction, copper sulfate react with Ki and it form iodine. When at the end of the reaction or at the end of the titration, when all copper sulfate is finished, that means there will be no reaction, there will be no release of free iodine, which will further react with this Na2H2O3. So since there will be no copper sulfate, there will be no free iodine. No free iodine means no iodine starch complex. So the solution, that's why this solution color changes from blue to white due to the Cu2I2, because Ki is available in the solution mixture, but there will be no copper sulfate. So due to this Cu2I2, the solution becomes white in color. But since there is no iodine at the end of the titration, there will be no starch iodine complex. So that's why the solution color changes from blue to white. So this is another important question: why at the end point color changes from blue to white? What is the reason behind it? So you have to answer at the end of the titration, the copper sulfate, since we take the fixed amount of copper sulfate, that is 10 ml, when all copper sulfate has reacted, there will be no left copper sulfate, and there will be no free iodine. That's why the reaction is stopped, and no free iodine starch complex. That's why there will be no blue color solution. So this is one thing. And another thing is, you see this one, the last one, that means the amount of copper sulfate is related to amount of free iodine, and which is related, and this Na2H2O3, that's the Biuret reading, is directly related to the amount of free iodine. So they are interrelated. The titration basically copper sulfate versus thiosulfate solution, but iodine is taking here part in the titration. And so this type of questions may be asked in your final viva. I hope you understand. Now, similarly, there is another titration which is there is a second titration, similar type of titration to determine the strength of unknown potassium dichromate solution iodometrically using sodium thiosulfate solution. Similar type of, only instead of copper sulfate, here the solution is potassium dichromate. So in this case, the reaction will be like this: K2Cr2O7, and along with Ki, we also add H2SO4 to accelerate the rate of reaction. You have to add H2SO4, concentrated H2SO4 initially. So when we add K2Cr2O7, H2SO4, and Ki, the reaction will be like this: iodine. Again, this is iodometric titration due to the release of this free iodine, K2SO4 and Cr2SO4 whole 3, and water. This Ki reacting with free iodine for Ki3. This Ki3 will react with starch, will form blue color. And iodine also side by side react with the hypo solution when we add from Biuret Na2H2O3 iodine Na2S4O6. Now during this process, first the solution color becomes brown in color, and after some time when we add starch, it forms blue. But at the end point, when all this K2Cr2O7 finished, there will be no free iodine and no blue color, and the solution mixture become green in color instead of yellow. In case of copper sulfate, it was white in color due to the Cu2I2. But in this case, due to Cr2SO4 whole 3, that is the chromium sulfate, due to presence of this chromium sulfate, the solution becomes green in color. That means at the end point, the color changes will be from blue to greenish color, and that will be your Biuret reading. Okay. Then similar process, first you have to standardize the hypo solution with the help of known potassium dichromate solution here. So first you fill your Biuret with the hypo solution, then take the known potassium dichromate in the conical flux, titrate it, and add Ki and H2SO4. The solution color becomes brown. First during the first step, you titrate with the hypo solution. Then after, when the solution color becomes faded, Then you add starch solution. After starch solution, the solution becomes blue in color. Then continue your titration with hypo solution. At the end point, when the color change becomes green from blue, you note the reading. Then by calculation, similarly, your V1 will be, for example, in this case, we take the known potassium dichromate as 10 ml, and your burette reading will be like 18 or 20 like this. And you see here initial reading and final reading. I should explain this one. You see here, you take 20 ml flux, and when you start your titration, the burette reading will be 0. That means you fill the burette up to 0 mark. And when you titrate, for example, 30 ml is your burette reading. That means 30 ml of hyposolution is consumed during this titration. So your final reading, that is V2, this y minus x, that means final minus initial reading will be 30. Now you have to repeat the same experiment 3 times. Why? So that we get the exact value of the burette reading. Because maybe now you start the similar experiment, the same experiment second time. Now your burette reading starts from 30, and finally it reaches 60. Then your final reading is 60 minus 30, that is 30. In the third time, now your burette reading starts from 60 and it reaches 90 when you reach the end point, 90.2 for example. So your final reading will be 90.2 minus 60, here 30.2. Now you see among the 3 reading, 30, 30 and 30.2, that means 30 is your exact reading. Why we repeat this experiment 3 times? I already told you, in this N1 V1 equal to N2 V2, exactly know the volume as well as the concentration. Because with a small change in this value, there will be a large effect or large difference in the final result, final calculation. That's why we standardize the hypo solution so that we get exactly the N1 value or N2 value. And here also we repeat the same experiment 3 times so that the V2 value, when we get the similar value 2 times, that means 30 is your exact result. But maybe you get 30.2, or first one maybe 29.8, then 30, then 30. So the two similar result is your final result. So to confirm our reading, we have to repeat 3 times. You can do it 4 times, 5 times, but 3 times, minimum 3 times. That means for known solution, it is 3 times. For unknown solution, it is 3 times. You have to repeat 6 times titration, similar titration, same titration 6 times. So same in this way, in case of potassium dichromate, you have to repeat experiment with known chromate solution with hypo solution 3 times, so that we can calculate the concentration of hypo solution from the known chromate solution. In the second time, now your hypo solution is known versus the unknown chromate solution, potassium dichromate solution. In this way, we can get the reading of burette. And see the calculation here. I am not taking any result, because copper sulfate, since this is similar type of titration, you can put any value or data, and from there you can calculate by yourself. So in this calculation, you have to put N1 value as your known potassium dichromate solution, which will provide by 1 by 20 or 1 by 10 or something like that. V1 will be 10 in this case, since you are taking 10 ml of this known solution. So V1 will be 10. N2 you have to determine for hypo, and V2 will be your burette reading after endpoint. In this way, you calculate N1, N2, and the second step, you put the value of N3, N4 as N2. So now at the end, the strength in this case will be N3 into multiplied by 49.03, which is the equivalent weight of potassium dichromate, so that we get the strength in terms of gram per liter, because normality is mole per liter and strength is expressed in gram per liter. Now I want to share you with the assignment so that you can easily understood. This is your assignment for practical. I am discussing the inorganic part here. You see this one. See the second one. Determine the strength in gram per liter of given copper sulfate solution by titrating it with sodium thiosulfate, that is your hypo solution, acting as intermediate. Now the data is given as normality of known copper sulfate is N by 20, that is your N1 is N by 20. Equivalent weight of copper sulfate is 249.678, which I already discussed. At the end, you have to multiply this equivalent weight with the N4 value or N2 value, N3 value, sorry. Now volume of known and unknown copper sulfate used is 25 ml. That means this one, so that it don't confuse. You see, this one is 20. This one is 20. For known as well as this, V1 as well as V3 will be 20. Okay. Now see, the volume for known and unknown copper sulfate, that is the V1 as well as V3 will be 25 ml. Volume of hypo solution used in the titration with known copper sulfate is 50. That is in the first table, your V2 will be 50. That is your burette reading. And when you titrate this hypo solution with the unknown copper sulfate, the volume will be 60. Okay, so 50 and 60 value will be like this. Just a minute. Now you see this 50 is your in here. 50 will be, instead of 30, the value will be 50. Okay. This value where I use 30 in your assignment it will be 50, and for unknown solution it will be 60 instead of 40. So in this way you can repeat the calculation. Okay. So they provide you the volume of copper sulfate for known and unknown both cases, that is V1 as well as V3 will be 25, and for known copper sulfate hypo solution will be 50, that is a V2, and for unknown copper sulfate is a V4 will be 60. So in this way you put the value and do your calculation so that you get your final result. I hope you understand. There will be no confusion in assignment. In this way, you calculate your result and submit. I will upload this in your Google Classroom.